Hello, lovely creatives and stargazers. I'm Jane Holland, and this is your creative and artistic forecast for the full moon in Virgo at the very end of February. So, if new moon in Aquarius back on the 11th was the planting of a seed for you, then this full moon in Virgo is the reaping of a harvest, ready or not. After all that emphasis on air and socialising at the Aquarian new moon, there are now 3 planets in watery Pisces. There's the Sun, obviously, opposing that Virgo moon, but Venus has also just entered the fray. And Neptune has been in Pisces for some years now, underlining all that's Piscean and Neptunian in our very troubled world at the moment. Now, Neptune in Pisces has a wonderful artistic side. It's deeply creative, full of dreams, visions, fantasies, but it's also a sign of grief and mourning. It's the great lament, it's the great compassion, tears falling into the ocean. It's a sense of global sharing of suffering and of the lack of boundaries which has led to the pandemic in the first place, but which also offers a solution to it in terms of people around the world calling on global resources and data in order to combat this dreadful plague. At the full moon, the Sun is opposing the moon. It's a moment of polarity, a clash of opposites, if you like, but also of seeing what these two opposites might have in common. Uranus and Saturn are still squaring each other from Aquarius to Taurus, but Uranus is now speaking in harmony with both the Sun in Pisces and the Moon in Virgo here. So Uranus is acting as a kind of escape route for those clashing Sun-Moon energies. Now, Saturn-Uranus may give us the urge to break lockdowns or revolt against restrictions, either restrictions due to the coronavirus pandemic or other restrictions that might be happening in your life at the moment. Like all things, these restrictions will resolve themselves in time, and trying to break free without proper thought could result in some serious problems for you and for others in your life. We all have free will, of course, but the strong Uranian note that's in the air at the moment isn't simply about rebellion, them versus us, authority versus the people, if you like. The flip side of its brilliant energy is about communities and social responsibility. The rules that we make for ourselves as a society and why we choose to abide by them in the first place. There's a tarot card, the Hermit, that is closely associated with Virgo. It's an old man with a staff and a lamp that he's holding up, the light of wisdom and enlightenment that serves to ward off the darkness. Now, this is someone who is deliberately choosing a life of limitation or restrictions, living apart from others, living in a small cell. Doesn't that sound a bit like what we're all going through at the moment with this pandemic? And all this while, the Sun is in the opposite sign of Pisces, a water sign associated with Neptune, god of the sea, another symbol of deep wisdom and hidden mysteries. And when you look at it like that, at what they actually have in common, maybe Pisces and Virgo are not the polar opposites that they might appear to be at first. Virgo, as the Hermit image implies, is about a search for spiritual and inner truth, but it's also represented by a virgin, Virgo, or a young unmarried maiden traditionally clothed in white or blue, and blue, as you may know, is the colour most closely associated with the Virgin Mary in art and writing through the ages. And this innocent, or not so innocent perhaps, young maid lures the unicorn to lay his unsuspecting head in her lap. Blue, of course, also represents the deep blue sea, or Neptune, in Pisces, the opposite sign to earthy Virgo, another thing these two signs have in common. So purity is one aspect of Virgo, but it's not moral purity per se, more an understanding that there's a season for everything, and that in ancient times a young woman just poised to enter adulthood was considered to be at her healthiest and most fertile, because she was ready to marry and produce children. And so Virgo, falling at summer's end and into early autumn, is associated with harvest. It's about health and fertility at its essence, abundance of creativity, and above all, production. Now, the moon in Virgo has just made a clashing opposition to artistic Venus in Pisces as it becomes full. Creatively, this is a fabulous aspect for artists and writers and sculptors, dancers too, actors, people who work physically with their hands or their bodies to create art. Virgo is the sign of the craftsperson, someone who's known for working with their hands. Venus represents art, beauty, physical creativity, and all these are highlighted at this very fertile and earthy full moon. But in terms of interpersonal relations and making your work public, it could be a less promising time. Now, this is down to the opposition between the moon and Venus. It's a fraught emotional polarity where one side is utterly opposed to what the other side is feeling. Now, although this is likely to affect your closest personal relationships most strongly, with a glamorous Moon-Venus combination, this could involve the public too. So Moon-Venus is how you're perceived by others. It's your reputation, it's your public profile, what you put out to other people, to the world. And with the inherent conflict of this opposition, this could actually be a bad time to say anything contentious or provocative on social media, for instance, especially if it's connected to art, glamour, or the feminine. But as artists, as creators, Moon-Venus is actually a lovely aspect at this full moon. Pisces energy is very fluid, it moves constantly like water, it's about escapism really, it's about fantasy. And if your work involves anything like that, you may find quite strong currents of energy suffusing your creative endeavours at this full moon. However, the full moon is traditionally a time when we complete a project or send it out for feedback or to the world for others to see and judge. A time to tidy up our work, if you like, tidy up our projects and submit finished work rather than begin it. Now, with Venus in Pisces, you may start to feel a little diffident or uncertain about the work that you're finishing at this time. You may find yourself unable to put a label on it, for instance, or pin down exactly what you've been trying to do artistically, at least on an internal level. But the Virgo energy at play here should help you to complete all the necessary steps in finishing your project and tick all those boxes so that nobody out there is going to suspect that you were ever uncertain about it. If you're not finishing a project at this time, it's possible that this Moon-Venus energy could denote a time when you struggle to express your own creativity, if you like, or you may experience a kind of formless yearning to create something but lack the drive or perhaps the inspiration to get it going. And this could mean it doesn't actually manifest into something tangible at this time. But, sometimes it's a time for creating and sometimes it's a time to sit back and think about your direction in life. This is because the full moon is a time of natural endings. It's the close of one creative cycle and moving towards a new one. It's all part of the cycle of life, and its energy is bent towards closure and towards completion rather than beginning things. Now, this full moon in Virgo is also forming a smooth, flowing, harmonious aspect to the planet Uranus, which governs exciting, unexpected, unpredictable events. Uranus can bring shocks, but in trine to the moon, it's more likely to bring wild, creative visions, which everyone will enjoy. There's a sharp-edged curiosity, a speculative feel to this Uranian-tinged moon. It's futuristic too, looking forward to what's to come, not soon, but a long way into the future. And because of this, it has a kind of prophetic, predictive feel to it. What you're doing now may give you a hint or foreshadowing of things that you may be doing in a year's time, maybe 2-3 years' time down the line. Now, this full moon could also be ahead of its time in other ways, with Uranus in the mix. So indulge in those creative visions, however wild they seem. Think about new and fantastical ways of doing things, because it may just be what everyone is doing in the future. Uranus loves truth, and truth may come to you more easily at this particular full moon, perhaps in a flash of creative genius or as a deep spiritual truth. These may be more readily available to you right now. Don't hoard these visions though and sort of keep them to yourself. It's a generous feeling. Give them to the world. Share them with your friends. That's how this energy works. It's open. It's giving. It's about sharing your creative and emotional bounty with a whole group or community of people. The esoteric arts as well, astrology, numerology, tarot, and so on, even the occult, these are all implicated at this full moon. And in Mercury-governed Virgo, sign of the student and the teacher alike, you may be considering taking a course in one of these, for instance, online, or even giving a course. You don't have to believe in order to study, but if you find truth there, take it away with you and use it in your life. So thank you for watching. Please like this video, subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.